Superintendent of Education Jack O'Connell was right here in the Valley visiting a number of schools as well as participating in the Great Shakeout. Well, KMIR 6 reporter Shauna discussed education and Proposition 8 with him in a one-on-one exclusive interview. State Superintendent of Education Jack O'Connell was right here in the Valley visiting a number of schools as well as participating in the Great Shakeout. Well, KMIR 6 reporter Shauna discussed education and Proposition 8 with him in a one-on-one exclusive interview.
Well, Jack O'Connell heads up our educational system here in California, and if you're not aware, we sit towards the bottom of the national spectrum based on test scores. Here in the Valley, one of the main concerns is getting ESL students, those who speak English as a second language, up to speed. I asked Mr. O'Connell about this, and here's what he had to say.
Really working very hard to close the achievement gap for all of our students that continue to lag behind their peers. We're doing just a tremendous amount of more individualized, personalized instructional opportunities. We know we need to teach these students English as quickly as possible. And so we have an achievement gap. We know that, we admit that. The achievement gap is real, it's stark, it's persistent, it's glaring, and needs to be addressed. And with our focus on closing the achievement gap, we really saw some incremental progress last year, and it's just the beginning. We know we need to close the achievement gap in California for not just moral reasons nor social reasons, but today we have economic reasons, because many of the fastest growing subgroups, English language learners, students from low socioeconomic backgrounds, these are the subgroups growing the fastest. So if we're going to have that well-trained, well-skilled analytical workforce, has to come from these subgroups.
Now, California used to be a national leader in education. One of the reasons attributed to falling behind is budget. You might recall back in September when the governor signed the budget after the longest stalemate in our state's history, legislatures tried to make up for California's $15 billion deficit by making some serious cuts, including in education. We asked Jack O'Connell what he thought about this and what the governor plans to do.
I told the governor the last time we chatted that the budget that was signed in September, 85 days late, was primarily based upon cuts. And so now we cannot afford any additional cuts in public education. Mid-year cuts in particular really exacerbate our current funding problems. And so we simply can't afford any more cuts to public education. We balanced this budget that was signed in September based almost exclusively on cuts and reductions. And so while the budget, I understand big picture, I understand the national economy, but what we need to do now is invest in our schools. We cannot afford to take any additional hits to public education. I certainly hope the governor and our friends in the legislature comply. There are going to be some very difficult decisions that need to be made, some painful choices, but public education has to be spared from any additional cuts.
Moving on to the recent election, you may have seen ads promoting yes on Prop 8, the proposition that bans same-sex marriages. Part of that ad spoke about teaching gay marriage in our school system. Jack O'Connell went on the record refuting such claims, and he spoke to us about what roles schools in California play in teaching marriage.
Well, yes on 8 passed. It's going to be the law of the land, absent some type of judicial intervention. And whether Prop 8 had passed or not, it had absolutely no impact on the public education system. Our school system's not required to teach any courses in marriage. If a local school district opts to talk about marriage and other committed relationships, parents still have the right to have their children removed from class if that school district chooses to teach along these lines. But there is There's no requirement, as some of the ads had suggested, that same-sex marriage is going to be taught to kindergarten students or second grade students. That was a fallacy. I said that then. I'll say that again now. Proposition 8, whether it passes or not, whether it's upheld by the courts or not, will have zero impact on public education in the state of California.
Rallies and demonstrations have been happening throughout California protesting the passing of Prop 8. A coalition of civil rights groups have asked California's Supreme Court to declare Prop 8 unlawfully enacted based on the fact that any constitutional law that rescinds individual rights must be passed by a supermajority in the legislature before being submitted to voters, which did not happen with Prop 8. Also, they're planning on refuting the proposition based on the U.S. Constitution. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thank you, Shauna. Right now, more than 35,000 acres, some 55 square miles, blackened thanks to 3 fires that erupted from Santa Barbara to right here in Riverside County. Tonight, Governor Schwarzenegger is asking the Bush administration to declare Southern California a federal disaster site.